Hello, everybody. Today is First Aid Friday. I'm joined with Teona, Othman, and Paro. All of us have taken our USMLE Step 1, and we're going to be answering some questions. The first question is, I am a prospective student hoping to join USMD this fall. I would like to know the main difference between the MD program at USMD and TSMU, and whether this extra fee is worth it. My question is to fellow medical students from their experience. Teona, you want to take this?
I'll be answering this question for you. And to answer this question, first you have to ask yourself if you see yourself continuing your medical education in the US, because the USMD program, it helps you to transition to a US medical residency. And it is oriented towards that. I mean, you can continue your residency in Georgia, of course, but the program and how it is scheduled and how it is organized, it is for American residency programs, basically. And you have to ask yourself if this is what you want, if that's where you want to go, and if it's worth for you, then absolutely join USMD. Also, with regards to structure, in our program, the first year we have also the addition of like very other different subjects than you would see at the Georgian program. We have, for example, like history and literature, and along with medical classes like genetics, of course, and biology. And these classes are for the purpose of having the student be able to have a conversation, to have a well-rounded medical student going into the US residency program. And even the US programs, they value students who are well-rounded and know about literature and history and various other subjects other than medicine. So this is one of the differences between the Georgian program and the US program. So yeah, I mean, if you're trying to make the decision, ask yourself where you want to end up. And if it's not easy, USMD program, it's a lot of work also. So you have to ask yourself if you're ready to put the work in. And if you are, like, our team will help you along the way any way they can. We have a really awesome administrative team, and yeah, that's my answer.
Thanks, Teona. And the second question is, by when should students start worrying about collecting research and other experience? So as someone who has started collecting this research and extracurricular stuff since year 2, I would say at the earliest. There's no like right time for you to figure out, oh, I want to make my CV better. Keep a lookout for opportunities. Talk to people. Suppose you like research. Suppose you don't know whether you like research. Ask someone, hey, can I help? Are you involved with any research? And a lot of people kind of want help with people with English translations, because most of the research is done in Georgian. So if you have good writing and reading researching skills, that's a great asset. Secondly, extracurriculars can be anything that you can think of, like whether it's personal or it's related to a group. If you want to start a library, a study club, you want to start a debate club, you want to start a running club, these are all things that make you look like a well-rounded person. And no, you're not going to have any specific time to kind of pursue these extracurriculars. It all has to be proactive, like self effort. You have to be able to balance both studying for your USMLE, studying for your clerkships, or studying for class, and doing this, because at the end of the day you have a long application when you apply for residency, where you have one box for your USMLE exams, another box for your USMLE Step 1, another box for USMLE Step 2. Then you have like 6-7 other boxes to fill in about your hobbies, your research, your experiences, and whether you had clerkship experiences in the US and things like that. So when should students start worrying? Start worrying the day you join medical school. Not worrying, but looking out for opportunities. So that's my answer. The second question is, top high yield resources, and are they enough? Best question banks other than UWorld. So Paro, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll answer this question. So I'll try to go system-wise, subject-wise, and tell you what we use, and it worked for us, I think. So for biochemistry, we did Lippincott, and this was very concise, but it was very high yield for the exam. There was another book, Devlin, that was, if you want to read more, you can read that book, but I think Lippincott was sufficient. Genetics, we did the essentials of genetics, and as well from Thompson and Thompson, and both were really good books. Microbiology, so I initially started off reading microbiology from the book Lang by Lang, but later on I found the other resource called Sketchy Micro, when it gives you like short animated videos of each virus and each bacteria and each fungi, and it was really, really good and helped me remember them by like remembering the pictures. So I enjoyed that. Pathology, Pathoma was really good for this. I think it was the best resource by far. And Pathoma supplemented with the Golian textbook was really great for pathology. Physiology, we did, I did the Kaplan lectures. Some people opted not to, but it's up to you. You can also use the Costanzo physiology textbook as well, which was recommended for us. Pharmacology, we did, again, by Lang. There was a textbook by Lang. We used that, and that was great. And on top of all of this, first aid was by far the best resource to combine all of this together. And I think that was the most important one. And in terms of question banks, personally, I did RX and UWorld. RX, I think, was really great after you've done your initial studying session and you wanted to see how much of first aid you can remember and how much of just basic facts you can remember, and RX was brilliant for this. UWorld, on the other hand, it's I think the best resource for step 1 and step 2 as well. It just gives you different ways that questions can be tested and different ways concepts can be asked on the test as well, and you can learn from it. It's an amazing learning tool. So UWorld and RX, in my opinion. There was also Kaplan. Some people enjoyed that as well. So I have no problem with them giving that a shot as well. Whatever works for people.
Also, to kind of add to what Paro said, you have this little index at the back, if you can see, and they list out all the resources that you want with like an B plus, B minus, A minus. So these are like resources that you have in first aid itself under each subject. You can find all your resources there. And the most important thing is to also finish some basic studying before you delve into a question bank, because you don't want to keep testing yourself and doing all these questions without actually having a foundation to work from. And next question is, Felsi asks, would you recommend Clab or USMLE for EUMD students hoping to land a job faster? Othman, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So you want to land a job faster? Well, like from what I know, P-Lab, that you can only take it after you graduate, right?
I didn't know anything about Clab.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's like you can only do it after you graduate, and like to land a job faster. Like if you do the USMLEs, you can theoretically do all the steps before you graduate, and like by the graduate you'll be done with all your steps, and you can apply right after you graduate. So 6th year of medicine, 7th year you can apply and land a job. But PLAB, yeah, like you have to, since you have to take the exams after you graduate, so it means the 7th year will be spent on these examinations. But in reality, I think it's so rare for anyone to like match right after they graduate after the 6 years. So probably everyone, whether you're doing like USMLE or PLAB, you're gonna take 1 or 2 years after you graduate before you land a job. That's if you have done everything perfectly. But I think no, it's the same. I think on average it's the same. Like if you study for both exams, yeah, there's no difference. Like if you can, when you can get a job. Yeah.
So the
But
question, do you want to add anything, Othman?
yeah, I mean, so you want to land a job faster. Okay, let's go to the next question. I don't want to delve into this.
But what you made makes sense. Even if you do all your steps in a row, you kind of still end up having like international medical graduates end up having like a gap before they.
I call it a physiological gap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So Ariba asks, with the USMLE turning into pass or fail from 2022, how will that affect question and answer pattern? Teona is going to answer this one.
So I'm going to answer this one, and also I'm going to talk about general what it means for you for the pass fail. In my opinion, I think this based on what I think. And so this test, step 1, is going to be pass fail soon, and I've had students message me on how this would affect them. And first, I want to tell you, do not be discouraged from studying the best you can study. So just because it's pass fail, you should still put the maximum effort you can into this exam. And I understand that since it's going to be pass fail, you probably would be worried that how am I going to establish myself to the residency. And you know, residency programs don't look at your numbers only. Like that's not the most important part of an applicant. And if this exam is pass fail, that means that you have more chance to strengthen other aspects of your application. Maybe you could do more research, or maybe you can be more proactive, start some clubs. But you know, if you're still worried about this number and making sure you have a good test score, there's still step 2. So you can really study your butt off and get a really nice step 2 score if this is what is important for you. And you know, it should be. Also, you really should aim to do your best for CK. If that's where you can show off your test skills, then go for it. That's what you should do. But overall, I don't think you should let it worry you, because whether you're worried about it or not, it's happening. So you have to deal with it. Like, you have to face it, and you have to make a plan. You can't, you like, give yourself a little bit of time to worry about it, but the next day just come up with a plan of how you're going to strengthen your application. That's my advice.
Yeah, I actually also read that it might be beneficial in a way for people from like IMGs, underrepresented IMGs. Is I've read a bunch of articles. I mean, I'm no expert, but I feel like it could be a good thing because it might help them look at other aspects of your application.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question is a second year, same person asks, as a second year, when is the ideal time to write step 1? Second year student.
Yeah, so I'll answer this question, and I think what our university provided as a timeline for us was very perfect. I think it was very, very perfect for like when you should be writing your step 1. What they did was they give us a month off, if I'm not mistaken, a month, right? A month off to study, like a dedicated period in January, to study for your step exam. But obviously before this, you start obviously from your second year. Once you start learning physiology and pathology, you want to remember this. So you start studying very early on, around the second, third year as well. And in our fourth year, in January, they provided 1 month off so that we could have a dedicated study period and focus on the step 1. And the idea was that after this, you would take your exam in that fourth year. Now you can take it right after that 1 month break. You can do it in the summer, or you can do it anywhere between that fourth year. I personally did it in March. I had friends who did it in April, friends who did it in summer, and friends who did it later. But the idea is that year, it would be the most beneficial time to finish it. Because after that, you can take a year off till you do your step 2 CK, and you can have more time to do your CS and more time to do step 3 if you feel like it, and your clerkships outside as well.
So, also, can I add something?
Go ahead.
So with taking it on time. Also be careful, because if you delay steps or graduation, that adds another year to the cycle before you can apply for residency. So before you apply for residency in September, so it's the September after you graduate, and you have to have all your steps, your graduation certificate, finished before you can apply. So if you delay something, or if you delay graduation, that's another year added to your cycle. So
Yeah.
I would say, like, be very on top of yourself and taking the steps on time.
Yeah. And another thing to add is that as much as this timeline is important, if you are a student in USMD, you can feel enormous amount of pressure during that time to take this exam, especially as you see
Yeah.
doing it together. Do not succumb to that. Please take this exam. This is the only time you will ever get to take this exam. God forbid you pass with a low score, you cannot retake this. So please do not be, pushed into, oh, this person is taking it in March, I can't wait till July. Oh my God, this person's taking July. I ended up taking it, I think, in my 5th year, and it's completely okay. Please take it when
Yeah, there is no ideal time. Everyone has their own ideal time. As long as you're consistent with your studying, you will find your ideal time.
Like, this was just a general schedule they gave us to follow, and if you follow it, then great. If you don't, that's also fine. But like Teona said, just make sure that you're still in the end, you're still gonna be okay, and you're still gonna graduate on time or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but one thing for sure, try to take your step 1 before you graduate.
Yeah, for sure.
You do not want to be studying freaking biochemistry enzymes when you're in your 6th. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Another thing is about the first question, the USMD and EUMD thing. What Teona said is a perfect example for this. Is that when you're in USMD, you have this dedicated kind of road to residency timeline that is already made out for you, and you just kind of have to follow it. So that's one of the big advantages of being in USMD, is that you have everyone's kind of working towards the same direction. Okay, so Omar asks, how do I make sure I remember what I just learned? Turns out to be short term mostly.
I talked about this in my Instagram live video too, and I think I'm gonna repeat that as well here now. My short-term memory is also not great at all. And to keep it in my long term, I initially used to reread a lot of material and make sure it stayed. And I used to hand make flashcards as well and just post it on my walls and on my doors and make sure that I see it every day. But then I came across the Anki app, and it's a flashcard app that gives you interval spacing flashcards, and it comes every day or every 3 days, every 5 days, every month, till you've properly memorized that fact or that information. And I think that was the most beneficial for me to shift information from my short term to long term. And I still remember majority of what I studied in step 1 because of Anki. So I think that if you want to work on long-term memory, I think you should definitely give this app a try.
And why do students prefer US residency programs over Western European ones? Language ?
Yeah, I'll take this question. I don't think there's no students who prefer one thing over the other. It just depends on where you see yourself in the future. Do you see yourself in the US, in the UK, in Germany? Yeah, of course, there's sometimes the language barrier. If you want to go to Germany, you should learn German. But it depends on your everyone has their own preference. It's not like people want to go to the US more than they want to go to the UK or Germany. It depends on your situation and where do you see yourself in the future. For in terms of if you're in TSMU and you're learning in English, I think it's probably better to aim for either USMLE or Clab, UK stuff, not Germany unless you speak German. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to add something to this.
Your microphone is off, Teona.
It depends if you want to add extra work, such as learning a language, which is not easy, especially learning, for example, medical German, which would be fun to your plan after you graduate, or if you start now, it's up to you really where you want to end up and if it's worth it for you.
But I think if you're in TSMU, EUMD or USMD, the path that you will have more guidance towards is the USMLE path, I think.
Just in general, even online, there's just so many resources to kind of take the USMLE that it makes it almost easier to take than easier to choose as a path compared to other exams. Like, for example, if you go into the Canadian medical licensing exams, it's just so it's just, there's not a lot of information, there's not a lot of residency opportunities there, and it's just been more easier for us since we've been exposed to a lot of USMLE related stuff. So next question, how does the pass or fail system affect IMG acceptance in residency?
Yeah, I went into this already. It shouldn't. If anything, you should just reevaluate other parts of your application, such as research or clubs or academics, of course. And letters of recommendation and step 2 as well will also be a focus. So it shouldn't change too much. You should just refocus your attention into other things.
So last question is clerkships, just clerkships in general, core clerkships, away clerkships. And I feel like we can all add a little bit of something to this one. Teona can go first.
So I guess I'll talk about the away clerkships and then you guys can take over. For clerkships at Emory, you can do a clerkship at Emory, but there are some requirements. First, you have to have your step 1 taken. So if you want to take Emory clerkships, you need to pass step 1, and also you should finish your core rotations, such as internal medicine, psychiatry, surgery, and you need to be in your 6th year. So these 3 things are a must, and if you complete them, then you need to do some paperwork, and then you can take your clerkship. And the paperwork, I think we have gone over paperwork, what you have to do, but it'll probably change if you're 1st year or 2nd year. This process will most likely be upgraded by the time you get there, but we have spoken briefly about what the paperwork is. You just have to send your things like your transcripts, your IDs, and also you need to be updated on your vaccinations, your flu shot if it's the season, things like that, and you send them all to a wonderful lady that sets up all this helps to set up all this for us, and she will also help you. And that's it. Those 3 things you need to make sure. That's another reason why you need to take your step 1 on time, so you don't get to miss out on this rotation, which I promise you it'll be a lot of fun. And I recommend you give yourself the opportunity to take it.
Paro, do you want to add something?
Sure. About these rotations in the US, I think it depends. So I did a lot of I looked at a lot of Reddit posts about this as well, and they had a lot of people upload their how many rotations they did and things like that. And I think depending on what specialty you want to get into and what you want to do in the future, like internal medicine or cardiology, neurology, you should also see what kind of rotations, how many you need, and what kind of rotations they would expect you to have based on experiences of past students. Some expect just 2 is fine. Some feel like, you need 3 rotations outside. So I think doing a little bit of research before you jump right into your clerkships is very important as well. And like Teona mentioned, you need to have step 1 done. I think that's a bare minimum, right? And if you do step 2 CK, that's great as well. And these clerkships will help you train yourself so that you'll be able to do step 2 CS better. So when you're dealing with your patients, stimulated patients, you'd be able to perform better knowing how the American system works.
Othman, you want to add anything?
No. That was a
Can
way.
I add something actually? I know we've been talking about Emory rotations, but you also have opportunities to do rotations outside of Emory. I forgot to mention this part, but you can send applications. I think there's a website, the AAMC website, where you can find free rotations offered for IMG students. And you have the opportunity to send applications for these free rotations as well. So take those, send applications anywhere you can find. There's several of our students who did outside Emory rotations, and so it doesn't only have to be Emory. You can be proactive and find yourself rotations as well.
For sure.
One more thing I wanted to add is before you go to an away rotation, you must have to complete your core clerkships, which are internal medicine, pediatrics, OBGYN, surgery, and psych. So sometimes they can say you're in the middle of doing these clerkships, but you finish step 1 and you want to go to the US. You must have at least finished your internal medicine core clerkship if you want to do an internal medicine away rotation. And the thing about being in the USMD program is that the application is waived for Emory rotations. Other international students who want to come do a rotation in Emory will have to pay. You also have a lot of just accommodation. They just help out with a lot of that. So that's a huge reason why you should schedule your step 1 and get the opportunity to go do your clerkships in Emory. So that's all the questions we have for you guys. Anything else you want to add before we? Sure. So thank you so much, everyone. Othman, Paro, Teona. Thank you for answering these questions, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.